thinking about where the next stage is.
Well, starting with the end in mind, which really should be a nice, lovely, sunny day and a park somewhere with the people that are important to you. And we're creating our vision, essentially.
We are.
Becoming aware of where we want to end up.
So that's really the next stage for this particular series. So we now want to start thinking about, we figured out where we are, we now need to figure out where there is. What is there? Now there's a difference here between a vision and a mission. A vision is about where there is, where we're going. The mission is how we get there. So we're going to give you a couple of tips today each, very quickly, to help you try and figure out what your real vision may be. Because until you've got that absolutely clear in your head, you can taste it, smell it, breathe it, touch it, and live it, it's actually going to be very difficult for you to start figuring out how you're going to get there.
Yeah, I want people to start with this idea of something simple, that creating a vision is actually a lot of fun, and you don't have to have this grand plan in mind. You can start with something quite tangible, if you like, and you can start with a few questions of what is important to you. When have you had times in your life where you felt like your heart's sung out loud and you felt like that's what I want to do? So start thinking about those sort of things. First one I really think is important is to create a rich inner life, and that's a nice way of saying do some meditation, close your eyes at the end of the day, take a few deep breaths and start to get familiar with the inner world that you live in. And some of the things that I like to do is to imagine talking to people who are mentors of mine, or people from history who I really look up to or have been inspired by their books, and I will imagine that they are sitting across the table from me, and this is all in my mind while I've closed my eyes. I'm quite calm, and I'll ask them a question, or I'll put to them my vision ideas and say, what do you think about this, you know? And I'll listen, or I'll pretend that they are talking back, and I'll really pay attention. And I've found that the unconscious mind has a strange and beautiful way of giving you some really interesting insights that you can only really respond with, there's no way I could have come up with that, but you did. You imagined it. The imagination is so powerful. So create a rich inner life and start to see your inner vision in a playful way in your imagination.
I'd like to add to that one actually. I've been reading a lot of business advice books, and a lot of business consultants out there, when they say you've got a good idea or you've got a concept that you'd like to try out, but you need that extra bit of advice. For instance, Tim Ferriss in his 4-Hour Workweek book suggests that you actually write to your biggest idols. You know, write to the CEO of that big huge company in your sector, in your field. Write to that author, write to that celebrity, and ask them what they think. And you know, you can get hold of them, because everyone else thinks that everyone else will be writing to them, I won't be able to get through. Give it a go, because speaking to your idol directly, or someone who you inspire to be similar to, could really, really help you define what you're doing.
I think that writing an email, if you take 10, 50 people that you aspire to be like, or who you are inspired from, and send them all an email that just says in the subject headline, would you give me some feedback on this, or it could be a thank you note, and you'll be surprised with how many people will return your phone calls or your emails. And
hey, you don't even actually have to have a network. You know, perhaps you're starting at the very beginning. You don't have a network of people yet. One of the things I found fantastic when I was getting started was simply joining on networks such as LinkedIn. And there are millions of groups that pre-exist that are full of thousands and thousands of professionals in your particular field. You don't have to be connected with them. You don't have to be friends online with them. You can simply make a post in that group and say, hey, experts in this field, I've got a question. I'd love your feedback and advice. And you'll be absolutely mind-blown about how many people will willingly and happily share with you their point of view on whatever it is that you've posted into that group. And that's where you start building your own then private connections and networks as well. So
genuine ones. So you sort of ask them, what do you really need, or could you give me some advice, and then you start to build a friendship or a relationship. The second part I want to talk about with people is to create a conscious routine, not a routine of everyday life that is boring or humdrum, but create one that that the way you want your week to look like, the way your month
builds a habit.
Yeah, and so you sort of you see your vision, and then you go, okay, well, what kind of a weekly, monthly routine or yearly routine am I going to need to get there? And you start chipping away at it. And I like to think that a conscious routine, or just any routine, will lead to mastery after a certain amount of time. If you do the same thing over and over, eventually you're going to be a master of that. I will also create a weekly sort of schedule, or a monthly schedule, and it's not fixed in stone by any means. I think it's very important to remain flexible. Yeah. It's almost like you need a go with the flow button next to your routine, and just sort of say, well, I'd like to do these things in the morning, and I'd like to do these things in the day and in the afternoon. Keep it simple, and like your idea before we were chatting of, you know, if I just had one thing that I was going to do today that was going to make me feel productive, or would be a really simple way of measuring productivity, yeah. What would that one thing be? And just focus on that. The next point is keep a journal. All throughout history, masters, or anyone good at anything really, has kept a journal, because that has been a place for their thoughts, and usually these things turn into books. Now,
Kolb is a gentleman who wrote about experiential learning and the importance of learning through experience. And actually, it's not the experience itself that gives us lessons or knowledge or skills in certain things. It's reflecting upon it afterwards. And that reflection process is where our greatest self-actualization actually comes about, where we really learn who we are, what stuff has meaning to us and how it has meaning to us, how it applies to our life, is through that reflection process. Getting away from the computer, coming to a park, to a cafe, sitting somewhere where you don't have access to the internet, where you can research, and where you can just be free with your thoughts and a pen and paper alone. When you've got pen and paper, it takes away that necessity for perfection, and your natural voice just flows out through your pen. Yeah. So visualization really is the key. If you can be in it, it can be possible.
When I've had blocks before, I will write, I don't know what to write. And then I will write things like, what should I write? And these questions, and putting them down on the paper, frees up those glitches, those creative juice blocks.
Something's better than nothing.
If you are just moving your hand like this across the paper, I like to think it of the neural networks in your brain actually starting to go, oh, he's writing, he must want to think about things reflectively, and it kind of turns on all those parts of my brain just from writing a few very simple questions. Stop and listen to the inner voice and see your inner vision. It's actually very easy to see your vision when you give yourself a chance to just stop and let those thoughts of the day rush through your head, and then eventually they'll settle, and then you start to ask yourself, well, what is important to me? What is my vision? And that is the first sort of keys, if you like, to unlocking your inner vision, and you're going to start to see pictures that you really like, and for sure daydream and be a bit hedonistic and think, well, I want the tropical island, scenario. But then you think, well, I might move to this more meaningful part of creating a vision. So what is important to me? What would I really like to contribute? Do I want to make a difference? What is my special gift that I want to give to the world? Yeah. I also want to talk about keeping a journal, and how that's really helped me in the last, I would say, 15 years that I've been doing it. And also, when you're doing your journal writing, consider putting the date in the top right, so that you can look back in time and say, that's what I was thinking at that time. That's just been something that it's kind of nice for me to go, oh, when did I come up with that idea, and how long has it been brewing? Yeah. And you can just start to see patterns in how you think when you're more likely to be reflective, and you can start to understand yourself more, which is going to help strengthen who you are and what your vision is and your values.
I've got one more final one to add for today, for helping create the vision, or making the vision more attainable. And we spoke earlier about faking it till you make it. We prefer the visualize, the imagining, the creating, the conceiving, stepping into that suit or that persona or that situation is not faking it. That is the only thing that's going to make it real. If you want to call yourself an author, start writing stuff and say, I am currently writing a book, because that is what makes you become an author. That's a great way to start.
Next episode, we are going to be talking about planning our route and starting to think about what are the things that actually need to put into place to
what's between where we are now and where we want to go to. We're going to be thinking about the different obstacles along the way, those Dungeons and Dragons that can trip us up.
I also like to think of it as, there's Party Island and I'm on Sloppy Sandwich Island.
How are we going to get it? Are we going to build it? What kit do we need in our kit bag? Do we need any mates along the way? That's what we're going to start thinking about next week, so that you can plan how to start getting to your vision. Thank you for being with us again today.
See you later.
See you next time.